want to thank everybody for coming tonight to our Evolve Law event. My name is Peggy Turner. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm a legal technology consultant based in Raleigh, and I am one of the organizers of this event, along with Alex Hewitt of V Testify. I do want to take a few minutes to thank our sponsors for this evening, and that includes the Duke Center on Law and Tech, Jeff Ward, and the folks at V Testify. There's Alex, and then the guys in the back. And LexisNexis, and that's Katie and Carrie in the back. And quick tip back there, they have some cups that they really don't want to haul up the stairs again, so please feel free to take advantage of those. And then finally, North State Consulting and Bill O'Boyle. Did Bill make it yet? Okay, well, he's one of our speakers, so that's why we're stuck delayed. He is stuck in traffic, so we are going to, that's why we're a spec delayed, hoping that he would make it, but we're going to push into the end because he was first to talk. I do want to take a couple minutes just to give you guys some information about Evolve Law in case you are not familiar with them. Evolve Law is a community of more than 140 early adopters of legal technology, and that includes entrepreneurs, legal tech companies, law firms, law schools that are pushing to accelerate the adoption of new ideas and technology into the legal profession. Evolve Law puts on events like this across the country to engage the legal community and bring like-minded people together, such as yourselves. Very recently, Evolve Law had some exciting news. They are joining forces with a media company that many of you may have heard of, Above the Law, and AboveTheLaw.com. And this is a strategic partnership that will enable Evolve Law to expand their visibility and their offerings. And starting in late 2017, Evolve Law will provide its members an opportunity to publish directly on Above the Law and gain recognition and insight from Above the Law's more than 1.3 million reader audience. So everyone at Evolve Law is very excited about this strategic partnership, and I want to encourage anyone who may be interested in joining Evolve Law. They are reworking their membership and their pricing starting October 1st. So that's coming up pretty quick. So if you are interested in becoming a member, I'm a member. There's other Evolve members around here. If you are interested, you can check out evolvelawnow.com, and you can find out more information. I also want to mention the local meetup group that some of you might be aware of. If you're not all aware of, the meetup group is called Triangle Legal Innovators. And this is a meetup group that Alex and I are heading to try and have a balance between these more formal Evolve Law events and just networking events. So if you're interested in these events for networking or these more formal Evolve Law events, we're going to publish them all through the meetup group. So if you know of people that might be interested in this, law students, everyone is welcome. It's free. Typically it's at a bar where we're drinking beer and trying to get somebody who can buy some appetizers. But it gives people an environment to network and meet other people in the Triangle. So that is Triangle Legal Innovators group on Meetup. And that's it for me. I'm going to turn it over to Alex so he can talk about the plans for the evening.
Excellent. Thank you, Peggy. A round of applause for us again. I want to thank everyone again for coming out tonight. I think this is a very special night because as the Triangle, we are really coming together in a lot of different ways to bring legal tech to the Triangle and be innovators in this space. I think it's really funny because we were at the ABA Tech Show and we are setting up, and then we look across next to us and we start talking to our neighbors at a booth there, and it turns out to be the folks from Vigilant, Paul, who's going to be speaking tonight. And then we learned that, hey, we're from the same area, ended up randomly in Chicago next to each other. And I think that's a great example of ways that you wouldn't even expect it, but Raleigh has been put on the map as a hub for legal tech. And we were even well represented at the Clio Cloud Conference this week as well. I really appreciate everyone for coming out to try and bring this community together even further. And I hope that everyone can make it out to different our events for the Triangle Legal Innovators. So for tonight, we have 5 different panelists, and they're going to have 5 minutes each to share a topic that they are very passionate about within legal tech. I'm going to ask that everyone please remain silent because we are videotaping this, and the video will be available afterwards in the next few days for people to watch again or share on social media, and we encourage you to do that. With great pleasure, I'd like to introduce our moderator tonight, Mr. Jeff Ward from Duke Law School.
What we call this? So I think because Bill's not here means that I'm actually introducing myself, which is really awkward. Done some awkward things before, but that's one of the most. Do we have a clicker? That's, I think, okay, great. Awesome, thanks for setting it up. All right. Well, I'm excited to be here too, and it's really exciting actually to look back at the beer and wine table and see it being sponsored by vTestify, and to have Alex introduce us. vTestify is one of those companies that ended up meeting several years ago, or a while back, and have connected with them in various ways, including at events like this, and just to see you doing well and things moving forward, I'm just really excited. It's not just that things are happening in the Triangle, they're happening and people are being successful, so it's really fun to see. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is one of those things that has started to move its way into the law, start to affect the people that we serve, our clients, the communities that we care about. And I'd want to argue to you that we really need artificial intelligence in the law, and that artificial intelligence really, really, really needs us. And so this is an invitation. So I should say, I guess since I didn't introduce myself, yes, I direct the Duke Center on Law and Technology. We do all sorts of things at the intersection of law and technology, including the Duke Law Tech Lab, which vTestify was a part of last year, a pre-accelerator program for legal technologies. Would love for you to spread the word about that. We'll soon have invitations for our second round of the Duke Law Tech Lab. So arguably we are at a real inflection point, okay? We're at an inflection point. Okay. So core technologies are expanding exponentially. Now, there may be some people in the audience who are technologists who start to quibble. Well, actually, between 2015 and 17, we didn't see 4 processing power. Maybe, right? That might be the case. But yes, we have had key indicators developing exponentially for many years. But even if we're not at exponential growth, we definitely are at key points in the ability to have natural language processing, which think of what that means in terms of data. All of a sudden, these powerful artificial intelligence systems that we've had around in basic form for 60 years, all of a sudden have way more to chew on. We're at a core threshold point in networks and connectedness. All of a sudden, I'm looking back at my student Jeremy back there, who really is studying the Internet of Things and thinking about how everything's growing increasingly connected, and everything's basically on the network. We're at a core point with deep learning and machine learning, okay, neural networks. All of a sudden, starting around 2011, 2012, we've had more and more powerful systems to derive conclusions, predictions, analytics from our data in ways that we've never been able to do before. We're at a core point in cost. These things not only do amazing things, they're becoming absolutely accessible to even the smallest of law firms, the smallest of players, okay? We have a core threshold in the production of data. Every time you're tweeting and logging onto social media, for instance, you are producing more and more data that the Googles and others of the world are using to feed these hungry, hungry, hungry systems. We're at a core threshold, and probably the most important point of all, which is one that some people thought never would happen, which is that all of a sudden lawyers care about technology, right? That actually is the most important point of all. And look at us here. We're here. Some of us may have been apostles of this for a long time, but finally all over the place you're starting to see the ABA Journal and every other core kind of resource start to talk about law and technology. So picture 2 curves. We have the technology curve, which we just argued is growing exponentially, and that's pretty well established. But we also have another curve, and it's an important one for lawyers, and it's the access to justice curve, okay? And if we were going to line those two graphs up, I don't think they'd match. I hit this a bunch of times and it magically goes, so as much as this is about technology, I actually think this is just magic, okay? The access to justice curve, I'm not giving specific numbers here, but if we were to look back to 1970, 1950, and look all the way now to 2017, we'd find that there are over 80% of core civil legal services, for example, going unmet. There's a vast, vast swath of our society that does not have access to core, very valuable, important legal services. So somehow we've had this new technology that gives access to resources, allows us to predict, to analyze, to feed expertise to a broader swath of folks, and there's a large segment of our population that continues not to benefit from that. I think that's a problem. Ouch. Okay? So if we really come together, lawyers and technology, the reason I'm saying we need it and they need us, I think we could direct this in the right way. So if these curves started to look an awful lot like each other, okay? Where the access to justice curve starts to mirror our tech development curve. That's my hope. So the real opportunity is democratized access to justice, democratized access to legal services. Some of you might be saying, well, we're not here to just give away legal services for free. I'm not arguing that you necessarily have to. Part of democratized services is creating new markets, where those who can't afford anything actually could afford something, and actually afford something of high quality is the hope that actually helps them to solve their legal problems. And I think that's very important. But there's a couple dirty secrets. Also, sorry, that is, we need AI. The dirty secrets are these. It won't happen inevitably. It simply won't. How do I know? Look anywhere into the past. We've had technological developments before. Document automation, which itself is a very powerful tool, has been around for a very long time. We've had hot docs for a long time. We have not seen any dent. In fact, we've seen backwards movement in access to justice, especially around civil legal sources. And the deployment of artificial intelligence specifically could go very terribly wrong. Now, some people might know this already. Kevin's laughing already, because I just stated something to him that seems so obvious, right? But others might not be aware of this, okay? I want to talk a little bit about that. AI definitely needs us to make sure that it is not something that doesn't happen, and also that it doesn't go terribly wrong. So AI needs us, and I'm almost done. There's just a few ways that I would argue, and I'm inviting you in to this world, where I really think for the lawyers in the room, the technologists who care about social issues, I really hope you put your voices into this debate. So the first place that it needs us is to build tools themselves that expand access to legal services. Not all of the tools that expand access to legal services do have a market. Sometimes this might be calling upon our technologists, our AI players, to devote some of their time and energy to social benefit. That might be something we need to do. But it's also being thoughtful about creating markets for tools that do indeed expand access to legal services. This is one of the primary goals of the Duke Law Tech Lab. We want to bring tools into the market, build new tools, and while they're there, help talk to them, help show them the ways that their tools can be deployed in ways that benefit the community. That's one. Another way that AI needs us is to demand that all our AI tools serve all equitably. There's a very, very well-known situation in the news about the last year, and that's the North Point Compass tool. People may have seen this in the New York Times and other places. This is a recidivism prediction tool. So you're sitting there, you have somebody who's convicted of a crime. The judge then gets information about possibilities or probabilities of recidivism, right? So it can be used for probation purposes, it can be used for sentencing purposes. How likely is this individual to commit a crime again and end up right back here? That's a key question. It's always been a key question in the law. It's just that it's been normally solved by these brains, right? Now we have a tool that's being deployed to give us a number, a score, some kind of predictive analytics. That actually sounds great. If we could do that well, that sounds great, okay? But the accusations, the report from ProPublica, other organizations have said, no, this is biased. And to be really concrete, it says, for example, it asks, one of its key questions is, how many people do you know who've been accused of a crime in the last couple of years? well, people who live in high crime areas are more likely to answer that, even if they're not likely to recidivate. So it really informs the bias. We have to make sure that we're not allowing those tools to enter into our world, okay? And then the last one, and I'm done, the last one is that we need to ensure that our artificial intelligence empowers and ennobles people. And I think this actually becomes a political issue. A lot of times lawyers, we serve clients, that's our duty, we serve them. I really think that all of us, whether you're a lawyer or not, needs to enter into the world and make sure that we are demanding that there's an expectation out there that if we are inviting a new professional service provider, an AI tool into our world, that they abide by the same level of integrity and professional services that we do, and that's almost a political issue. So I encourage you to take part in that debate. So I really believe that AI has a potential to solve some problems that have plagued the law for many, many years. We need AI. But it's not going to do it well. I promise you it's not going to do it well, and it's not going to do it inevitably unless we enter in and make sure it happens. AI definitely needs us. So thanks. All right, I'm going to real quickly introduce Camille, who probably needs not much of an introduction for many of you, but Camille is Vice President of Client Services at Lawyers Mutual Insurance Company of North Carolina, and has been one of the absolute movers and shakers of law tech in this area. We met, actually, conveniently in Chicago at a Clio conference, and looked down the row and said, everybody here is from North Carolina, right? And so it was very cool. Since that time, she's been highly supportive, a primary supporter of the Duke Law Tech Lab that I mentioned before, Lawyers Mutual Insurance, a real driver behind these meetups, people getting together, but has a deep, deep expertise with working with law firms, which is what she's going to talk about now, and helping to consult with them about ways that they can improve their practice. And we're going to hear in just a couple of minutes about exactly how they can use big data to do that. So, thanks.
Right. So we live in a world where everything is tracked. A device on my wrist tells me how many steps I've taken today, my current heart rate, and how many calories I've consumed. I use apps on my phone to track how much money I have, what bills have been paid, and how my investments are growing. Data is everywhere. The question is, can data save law firms? By many measures, today's law firm business model is struggling. By some measures, today's law firm business model is irrevocably broken. I would suggest, along with many other people and almost every speaker at the Clio conference this week, that you can correct course by using data. And tonight, I'm going to particularly talk about small data. So there's many challenges for solo and small firm lawyers, but here are the three that are most often identified. Acquiring new clients, clients want more service for less money, and wasting too much time on administrative tasks. The good news is that we can address these concerns, and not necessarily with expensive enterprise systems, but by mining systems that we already have in place or looking for new systems that work well in today's economy. At the Clio conference this week, they released the 2017 Legal Trends Report. You can find that at Clio.com. And so here is a staggering number that was released last year for the first time when Clio surveyed 40,000 of their users. This year with a survey of 60,000 of their users, primary solo and small firms. Here are the numbers in an average workday. Lawyers spend 2.3 hours billing time working for their clients. 1.9 hours that are actually billed to clients, and finally 1.6 hours collected on behalf of their clients. That is staggering. This means lawyers are spending 2.3 hours in a day doing client work. They're getting paid for 1.6 hours a day. This is not sustainable. So let's talk about data around the three challenges that I mentioned earlier. So finding new clients. There's an old adage. I know that half of my advertising dollars are wasted. I just don't know which half. So without data, how do we know where to spend our time and spend our money? An easy start is by asking our clients, how did they find us? This is a process you could put in place immediately. Add it to your intake checklist. Have your receptionist ask people when they call your office, but find out, where do these calls come from? Then there are other marketing automation tools that we can use. Customized discount codes, customer relationship management tools, online advertising, Google AdWords. There's all sorts of things we could be doing, and they help us track our data and analyze it. So for example, Big Law has had a tool through LexisNexis for 20 years, a client relationship management tool. It has a pretty big price tag on it, and it's really geared for those lawyers with those law firms with hundreds of lawyers. Today, there are software solutions, cloud-based, like Salesforce, that lawyers are using and customizing for the law practice. So using the data that you already have, or finding ways to start collecting data, can give you insights that you've never had before into running your law practice. It'll help you which advertising campaigns are effective and that you want to continue spending money on, and they can help you determine which of your clients are the most profitable. So when customers or consumers are surveyed, they typically say one of their biggest complaints about lawyers is they don't return their phone calls. This happens all the time with potential clients calling your law firms. Maybe you have already decided that client's not a good fit for you, but an easy thing to do to improve the profession's reputation and to possibly get you a referral, even for a client who you're not taking on, a potential client that you're not taking on, is to return the phone call and to say, I don't do this kind of work, but let me refer you to someone who does. And it might be as simple as building up your referral sources, or it might be that you're referring them to your lawyer's referral service that your bar association has. But return those phone calls and do it quickly and timely. Maybe there's a way to automate that. Maybe you can create emails that you're sending out automatically. Maybe you can have train some staff to help you make those phone calls. But there are simple things you can do that will increase the rate of referral from even clients that you're not taking on. So maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, where do I find this data that you talk about? Well, easy places. One, ask your clients. If you want to talk about referrals and how they found their way to you, you just ask them. Another is in your records that you already have. I bet if you have no system in your office, you've got a billing system of some sort. Look at your billing records and see what data you can pull from that. If you're doing any sort of online advertising, there are all sorts of analytics tools out there. Whether you're doing Facebook ads or advertising with Avo. So take advantage of all of those reports. So another of the challenges that we talked about was this collection issue, right? You're billing for a small amount of work, you're getting paid for even less work. What can you do there? Well, the Clio Trends report said that 44% of you say your clients don't have any money. That, my friends, is a problem with vetting clients on the front end. 31% of you say your client has money, they're just not paying you. That, my friends, is a problem with your billing system somewhere. So what can you do differently? Flat fees, fixed fees, larger retainers, better vetting your clients on the front end, shorter billing cycles, accept credit card payments. Firms who accept credit card payments get paid 40% faster. If you can pay a bill that's been emailed to you and you can pay it over the phone, you're going to do that quicker. So what are 4 things that you can leave here today and do to use small data to make your law firm grow? First of all, go read the 2017 Legal Trends Report. It's found at Clio.com. Number 2, pick one piece of information in your firm to measure and start measuring it. Take that simple one of asking every client that's calling in how they found out about you. Number 3, keep time records of where you're spending your time and begin to analyze what can be automated, what can be delegated, where can I find efficiencies in my workday. And number 4, get on top of your collections. Send out bills faster, get on the pay cycle of your customers, do all these other things that I talked about, but every day spend 30 minutes trying to get your collections under control, and once you've got them under control, don't get in that sort of shape again. It's easy to say, this won't work for me, my clients won't pay bills online, my clients won't let me bill them twice a month, my clients won't look at Facebook ads, but once you incorporate data into the practice, you're no longer guessing about the effectiveness of your marketing, the accuracy of your pricing, or seeing huge dollar amounts in uncollected revenues. Welcome to a data-driven law practice.
Really excited to introduce Paul, because Paul is going to build upon something. I set the stage for you to go and talk about machine learning. Paul is one of those rare birds that we get to hang out with who's actually an engineer, which is great, and exactly the kind of people that we need to be hanging out with if we want to change the law. So self-build a little bit, but you say you're all about tech. Right? Yep. And I think that's probably where I should say full stop, right? But lots of experience as a chief engineer, modeling everything from how people interact to building semiconductors. Yep. So here we have a guy who knows what he's talking about. He's going to talk about potential discrimination in machine learning.
Okay, this talk was supposed to be something you're passionate about. Well, Rosanna Garcia, my co-founder, she's obviously female and Hispanic. So she handed over to me, she said, you are going to talk about, can AI be racist? And I thought, oh, okay, well I'm a WASP and I'm an engineer, I'm a tech guy, I believe in the machine. Of course it can't happen. Or can they be colorblind? So I thought I would start with a definition. What is AI? Just to be clear on what we're talking about. And one definition is the learned capability of a machine to perform complex tasks, make decisions, or predict the future. The key thing here is learn. Now, I asked any of you with children who have taught their children everything they know, or everything they've started to know. You present them with scenarios, with data, and you give a qualitative or a quantitative feedback to say, that's how you should feel about it, or that's how you should deal with it. I put it to any of you to think, could you ever be completely unbiased? Would your child ever take a completely unbiased viewpoint of that? Well, the same thing for machines. It's very, very difficult to teach a machine to be completely unbiased. So Jeff, you stole my thunder, wherever this thing is. So this is the compass system that he was talking about. A few years ago, North Point developed this, and they marketed it quite well. It's used extensively in many states. Judges use this to think about how they should deal with this person who has committed a crime. And here's an example of a low risk and a high risk. 2 petty theft crimes. And this is what Compass thought is the risk analysis of this. Well, it turns out for black people that the rate that the Compass system predicted they would commit a crime again for black people is 40% wrong. In other words, 40% of those people don't. For white people, it's 20%. And it's completely the opposite for when it predicts they won't commit a crime. 40% of whites do, and 20% of blacks don't. So there is racism in there. When looking at North Point's data, they say they have 137 data points that they've collected through interviews Not one question leads to race or asks about race. So where does this bias come from? It's in the data. Also, this is an early AI system where it doesn't continue learning. They don't update it with results 2 years down the road after this criminal data comes back again. It's not updated. So it's a very poor AI system by today's standards. Here's another one. Automated tool by an insurance company looks at cars going down the road, and they want to know, does the color of a vehicle make any difference? Should they affect the insurance rates for people just based on the color of the vehicle? So they collected a ton of data, and they've concluded white cars have less accidents than black cars in this large city where they did this. Of course, they forgot to input the data that all of the entire police force drives white cars. Where is that? Okay. So the insurance company wants something like the left side there, a very clean separation. People who have had lots of accidents and people who have very little accidents. They would love that. And they say, well, here's the rates for these people and here's the rates for those. But we all know that's not the case. There's all overlapping categories. People are all over the map. So where do they draw the line? How do they build their algorithms? All right, the credit industry. These things that affect all of you, the insurance, criminal, the credit industry. They have one measurement for deciding what kind of credit you should have. And that's your credit report. Yeah, there's 3 companies, but they're all basically the same. They collect the same data. They use very slightly different algorithms. But what they don't do, when banks decide whether they should give loans based on your credit, what they don't do is they don't categorize different types of people. In other words, they build a formula and say, all right, we want to maximize profit, so we're going to stick the line right there. And if you're above this threshold of your credit report, you get a loan. If you don't, if you're below, you don't get a loan. But female, male have different credit. What do you think? Where they draw the line for different types of people makes a difference. In other words, if they stick the line right down at some number, they will find that they are giving loans out to more males than females. If they try to maximize the profit, those numbers are going to be the difference. If they try to say, all right, for females we have this kind of threshold, for males we have this kind of threshold, then they'll find that there's different numbers between the two. And there will always be a bias, there will always be an argument, there will always be a discrimination. And it always can be translated into racism. There's no way to get around it, behind it, under it. You can't solve it all. So you have to manage your biases. You have to think about what are the important pieces of data you give it. Otherwise, you end up with AI disasters like the Compass system. It directly affects people and their livelihoods. Same with the insurance companies, same with the banking industry. They all use AI, rudimentary, of course, but that's where we're at the threshold. As Jeff said, we're on the cusp of a new learning of AI, a new way to teach machines, more information, continued and evolving feedback, because the world is a changing place. If you make an algorithm and stick to it for 10 years, it's going to be wrong. It's going to be biased. It's going to be racist. So that's my point, is we need to keep evolving in creating our AI algorithms. And that's it.
All right, so thank you for that. Eric Sanchez is going to talk to us about pioneering or perishing. And probably the best anecdote to explain why he's very qualified to do this is, could you imagine being handed a litigation situation that involved almost 100,000 claimants, right? Well, that happened. That happened to the claims firm that Eric works for, and the fact that they not only handled it, but got the maximum award, and really gained a lot of notoriety through doing it, largely came down to the fact that somebody like Eric and others at his firm were willing to come along with them, looked at that situation and said, we need to think of this like data scientists, like logistics experts, and not like the conventional lawyer. And I think maybe it's his military background that's part of it, but definitely it's a visionary aspect to Eric, who sees doing law tomorrow very differently than we do law today, and he's going to talk to us about the necessity of that now with Pioneer Parish.
So that was quite an introduction. Thanks, Jeff. So I'm going on my 18th year as a law firm administrator. And as I was approaching this, I was thinking, well, what is it that you need to know? Most of us in here are legal technologists of some kind. You've already drank the Kool-Aid. You understand the need for AI. You understand the need for all of this great technology, but I bet you we all have one frustration in common. The lawyers just won't accept it. So I'm going to tell you a little story about how we made that evolution. I'm going to give you information that I hope helps you in your respective endeavors, because the reality is this. If the law firm of today does not change, does not evolve, does not adopt these technologies, there are other firms that will, and they will eat their lunch. So I'm going to tell you how we did it. First of all, the maxim is true, misery loves company. So let's see if I can figure this out.
Point it over here.
Point it there. If you're old like me, you know what this is. If you think you had it tough getting lawyers to adopt your technologies, let me tell you what it was like in my firm to get them to change from WordPerfect to Word. I see all of the head nods. You know what it is that I'm talking about. So what I learned is there's such a tremendous amount of fear. Fear is a great motivator. So as Jeff alluded to, I'm a former Marine. I can assure you what we do is we confront whatever your fear is. If you're afraid of heights, if you're afraid of water, if you're afraid of big people or little people, whatever, you're going to get confronted with it because they want you to overcome that fear. And it took me a while to figure this out. But what I recognized was this. There's another old maxim that a lot of lawyers know, especially old school ones. It's why did they go to law school? Because they weren't good at math and they weren't good at science, so they went to law school. Thankfully, great law schools like Campbell and Duke and others are recognizing this, and they're changing that paradigm. But some of the lawyers that are existing now, the decision makers in the firms that you're trying to reach, they fear it. They don't like the idea that technology can help them pick a jury. They don't like the idea that technology can help them in discovery. This struggle is real. So I'm going to take you through, this is an image, an MRI image. You see a radiologist in 1987. And here we see, this is from the NCBI, and what it says is blah, 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 blah. A decision team is preferable to a decision tree. Now, it's really interesting because what they said is, yeah, but we want this. We prefer this. It doesn't matter what the data shows. So if we go and we advance the ball, and we look a little bit, we look at this snowstorm, what you'll find is that, I'm trying to go to the next, there, There we go. What we're going to find now is we're seeing some advancements in radiology such that now radiologists are what? They're afraid. They went to all of this schooling. They went to all of this education. They've got this great paying job. They had it all figured out. I sacrificed, and now I'm afraid. What's going to happen to me now with all of this? And so there's this tremendous fear that's gripping it. So I had to deal with this very early on in my firm, and I was trying to do these experiments, and I would show this data analysis and show how, look, this algorithm came up to the same conclusion that it took you a while to do, and it was just not getting any headway. And so what I recognized, as I said, I'm not a technologist, I'm a law firm administrator. The biggest concern was that they were going to be replaced by machines. If you think you don't have that fear right now in your target market, you are just wrong. And I don't need data to tell you that. I think we all have collective experience in that. And so what I did is I began to just create my own internal drip marketing campaign. What I would do is I would set up Google alerts, and I looked at all of the professional industries that were adopting to technology, and I just inundated my partnership with it. So what I did is we looked at agriculture, art, education, entertainment, finance, medicine, music, pharmaceutical, nutrition, and defense. And what we found was they started to thaw. They started to see that other professional industries were not only adopting and warming, but they were thriving. And we see now just what you guys were talking about now. Justice Roberts says, hey, it's not a day that's coming, it's a day that's already here. The way that we made our transformation from a firm that was clutching word perfect to a firm now that has developed its own application was continual education. You don't need to be afraid, you're not alone. Thanks.
Did we get Bill here? Yay. I'm not sure it helps you.
It's all right, actually. The magic thing, you know, it's okay.
All right. I'm going to introduce Bill real quickly. So thank you. Sorry that we had to go out of order, but we're ending with the state of legal tech, which sounds to me like a really nice wrap up. So thanks so much. So Bill O'Boyle's founded North State Consulting, which is a way to empower firms to reach their potential. And he says their methodology is very simple. I like this a lot. We break complex strategies and ROI models down in a way that any firm can implement. So nice way to build upon actually the fear and the resistance that Eric just mentioned. So thank you so much for being with us. And
Thanks, Jeff. So what I wanted to just sort of talk about things as legal tech at a macro level. So how does the industry working towards investing in legal technology even from a VC level, and why are there more legal technologies coming to market? So my perspective is a little bit different. It's very much just on a business level. I enjoy the legal industry very, very much. We've built our business very much around legal technology, but like many other things in life, things just sort of happen unplanned. And so I got into legal technology about 6-7 years ago while working with ShareFile, which was eventually acquired by Citrix. And it was very interesting. We were a young, scrappy startup and all of these good things, and we were looking at different industries that we could go after. We were not a VC-funded firm. We were competing with Box, Dropbox, and all of these type of things. And we looked around at the different industries, and accounting, healthcare, finance, all of these different things. And I remember summing it up. No one wanted to do legal technology. And I remember summing that up pretty simply when I said, okay, so in the accounting industry, you have basically one IRS. In the legal technology, you have 50 different states, you have all of these different practice areas, you have different size firms, and that's a lot more difficult. Cool, I'll do that one. And that's okay. And so what my firm focuses on is helping legal technology companies go to market. We've worked with 12 different Evolve Law members as our clients. We've helped countless others for free. So in that regard, I have that in common with attorneys, giving free advice sometimes. It just happens. So why is there this many more products? Well, at a very high level, there's much more VC coming into legal technology, and there's many more legal technology products being introduced to the market. So a pretty easy summary, but why is that? And so traditionally, the legal technology industry has not been something that's been heavily funded by venture capital. So many companies kind of come in, they have a cool idea, but it's really hard to get up off the ground. But now it's the legal technology, the legal industry is seen as something that's really building a lot of momentum. And from an investment standpoint, those are the things that these companies like to invest in. So as with many other industries that sort of go through a curve, say the construction industry. 2 or 3 years ago, the construction, general contractors are investing heavily in technology. Well, it has totally changed, so now they get a lot of money too. The other thing is it's sort of the trend in so many new technologies is because so many attorneys, many like yourself, have gone and gone into these really big firms and they've seen their fathers and mothers work very, very hard and all of the stuff, and they want something much different. And they're the ones that are they're going out and putting their own shingle out. They're the ones looking to maximize technology, and they're the ones that are actually often creating this type of growth. So if you look at things collectively, I think you're going to continue to see more and more new products going to the market. You'll see more things developed in the market. You'll start to see more attorneys adopting more technology, and that'll continue to increase investment. And so another reason why there's so many more younger companies is if you look at even 6 years ago, you had this funky, weird 2 companies, Clio and Rocket Matter, and they were talking about the cloud. And that was just crazy. Why, I'm an attorney, would I put anything in the cloud? It's unsecure, and all of these types of things, and were very valid questions, where many other industries were well ahead of that. But if you started to look at the alternatives are very large incorporated systems, which if you're this type of firm using Wolters Kluwer or Thompson or whatever it may be, your entire firm needed to be working within the parameters of what those companies allow. The things didn't integrate. So a company was then looking to try and solve all the problems in a hosted environment. It was very, very difficult. And now, all of a sudden, there's so many other companies that are specializing in this and specializing in that and doing this time and billing system a little bit different and solving this problem a little bit different. And the newer products are adapting and accepting that as a change. If we look at Clio, just last week, announced a $1 million fund in investing in new companies. That is a totally unheard of concept. Does not happen. And they're actively promoting other companies to build onto their platform. And so what I believe you'll continue to see is just a lot more investment, more new products coming to market, and a lot more interconnectivity of those products. So I'd like to keep my comments very short. So thank you very much.